Welcome to Lookouts and Waterfalls in the Blue Mountains, episode 31, Let Our Videos Be Your Guide. In this episode, part 2, we visit the Hydro Majestics Old Sunbath, an unofficial Tucker's Lookout, and Mark's tomb, all below Medlow Bath. Hello and welcome. In part 1, we visited Church Cave, once called Medlow Cave. This is part 2 of episode 31, where we'll walk to the Sunbath, Tucker's Lookout and Mark's tomb. But first, we'll go and visit a feature I found on the way back from the church cave. Let's go. The tracks around here are not signposted, and there are quite a few side paths, so familiarise yourself with maps before you come here. Okay, here we are. Okay, here we are at this ledge. This is some sort of a lookout because there's stones concreted into the base rock. So it's an official lookout of some description. You can see it curving around. We're back at the intersection of the Sunbath and Wonderland tracks. Sunbath track goes from my right to left. The Wonderland track goes forward in front of me, back to Belgravia Street. We'll go left, and the next viewpoint will be the Sunbath. In a little less than 50 metres, we should reach another left turn that will take us to the Sunbath. Built in the early 1900s by Mark Foy, The Sunbath was for the patients and guests of his Hydro-Majestic Sanatorium that later became a hotel. Even before the Hydro-Majestic Sanatorium opened, in 1904, Mark Foy had begun planning for a wide range of recreation facilities and amusements for the sanatorium's patients. They included lawn tennis courts, a bowling green, a cricket ground, and a swimming bath. He spent many days wandering about the vast extent of territory embraced by his new estate, with a mind to further beautify the hillsides and the valley. He planted fruit trees at every available point where space could be cleared or soil found. Okay. His Hydro-Majestic Sanatorium boasted a course of treatment for the jaded nerves of the tired city man and woman, and included all sorts of water baths, massage, electric baths, and sun baths. For a time, the ladies' sunbath was on the sanatorium's flat turreted roof, giving a wide extent of space for lounging in the sun. The sunbath for gentlemen was provided with a plunge water bath, shower baths, and a tennis court. A dam was constructed about 1.5 kilometres down the valley with a holding capacity of 1 million gallons. Not satisfied with all that, Foy decided to provide a sunbathing place in the bush, about 850 metres from the hydro. He brought up sand from Bondi for his visitors to lie on. An early pamphlet advertising the sanatorium says that the sunbath was surrounded with a bush fence thick enough to shut out peeping toms. They've actually put steps in here for people to walk down in the old days. This is the sunbath. Used to have sand in it. And that's the sunbath. Okay. Not far from here, back along the Sunbath track and down the valley track, is a lookout now touted to be Tucker's Lookout. That's not its official name because, as you saw in our last episode, we visited Tucker's Lookout behind the Mazda dealership on the highway in Medlow, Bath. This lookout was originally called Pulpit Rock, most likely named by William Hargraves around 1894. Hargraves was the principal landowner in Medlow in those days. Medlow was previously known as Brown's Siding, a short rail spur for loading timber from Brown's sawmill. The Mountaineer Illustrated Tourist's Guide to the Blue Mountains in 1920 records, Tucker's Lookout opposite the station and next to the post office. Although now closed for some time, the post office building is still there, boarded up and vacant. This Pulpit Rock, as were many Pulpit Rocks in the mountains, known for its pulpit-like rock formation. This one is on top of the track to the Colosseum, a feature down in the valley. One reference to Pulpit Rock I found states, the cottage belonging to Herbert Carter was located in Belgravia Street, 450 metres away from Pulpit Rock. I've been unable to discover who renamed Pulpit Rock. I suspect the name just fell out of use due to other pulpit rocks in the area. But why call it Tucker's Lookout? It's likely the instigator mourned the loss of the original Tucker's Lookout and wanted us to remember Alfred William Tucker, 1856 to 1934, and Annie Jane Tucker, 1857 to 1934. They were the couple who owned just over 1 acre of land in Canimbala Street, Medlow, Bath, and ran the Medlow Tea Rooms from 1899 to about 1911. Then again, unable to find Tucker's, someone possibly thought this was Tucker's Lookout. In episode 29, I mentioned that Mark Foy, the man who built the Hydro Majestic Hotel, named many of the features in this area to interest his guests. This location, with its well-defined path, would have been one. Names Foy gave to features included Glen Rosa, the Kuma Rocks, the Ruins of Pompeii, Solomon's Seat, and the Gardens of the Gods. Was this spot called one of them? I imagine the Kuma Rocks were the three brothers I visited in episode 29. I think this spot is Solomon's Seat. You'll soon see why. The northwest frontier, now a region of Pakistan, became part of British India in the aftermath of the Second Sikh War in 1849. For the following 50 years, frontier tribes rose up in rebellion, and each time the British Army fought them off. In 1902, two campaigns undertaken by Major General Charles Egerton in Waziristan against tribal raiders were common news stories in Sydney newspapers, papers that Mark Foy likely read. One report stated, Solomon's Seat, 11,262 feet high, is on the Suliman Ranges in the Wazari country, where the British are now sending an expedition. Am I right? Find me another Solomon Seat around here and leave a comment. Giant wall there. On the way back along the valley track, we passed the path to the Sunbath. Now this is the intersection to the Sunbath. Next, we will turn left onto the Wonderland track. And we're back at the Wonderland Sunbath intersection here where we started today. Up towards Belgravia Street. It's left again. The Mark's Tomb turn-off, which is on the Wonderland track. Shortly after that, it's right and a walk to a sign pointing left that says Mark's Tomb, a rock formation and cave called Mark's Tomb. walking from Belgravia Street down the Wonderland track, you take the first right, and then right again. In the early 1900s, Mark Foy built the Hydro Majestic Hotel with the money he obtained from the sale of shares in Mark Foy's, his successful drapery business in Sydney. The Mark Foy's building is still there on the corner of Elizabeth and Liverpool Streets. When Mark Foy died on the 15th of November 1950 at the age of 86, he left an estate valued at £68,961 and an unusual will. According to this will, after making several bequests which took much of the capital of the estate, he directed that he was to be buried not far from the Hydro Majestic, in a vault on the ground that was to be called the Garden of the Gods. There were to be elaborate approaches to the tomb, a special road was to be made, and this was to be maintained permanently so that anyone who might desire to approach could do so quite easily. The trustees, however, directed by the executors and Foy's relatives, made application to the Equity Court for permission not to carry out the will's provisions. Mr. Justice Hardy heard that these works would cost £32,000 and only £16,000 was left after family requests to carry out Mark's instructions. Justice Hardy granted the application, and Foy's relatives divided up all of the £68,961 amongst themselves. Mark Foy was buried beside his wife in the Vaucluse Cemetery, and not in the elaborate burial tomb his £68,000 should have guaranteed him and any of his family who wished to join him. Mark's tomb. Here we are. I'm going to go over outside the cave and look back in. In this episode, we visited Church Cave, the hydro-majestic Sunbath, Tucker's new Lookout, and Mark's tomb. You can do all these in one day, but take your time and enjoy the outdoors, the sunshine, the fresh air, the wonderful vistas, but most of all, stay safe by familiarising yourself with our safety instructions at the end of this episode. In our next episode, we visit an unknown lookout in Blackheath and Mermaid's Cave in the Medlow Valley. I'll have more stories for you then. Bye for now. Whatever way you discover the Blue Mountains, we want you to have a safe and enjoyable experience. Whether you drive, catch public transport, or cycle to the destinations we visit here, some walking is necessary. The walks are usually short, but can contrast greatly, so you need to be aware of the risks. Have a safe and enjoyable sightseeing experience at these Lookouts and Waterfalls. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to be alerted when next we visit the Blue Mountains.